everybody, and welcome to Adventures with Katie. This is the second episode with the new title. On today's episode, we're going to be making puff pastry. Since I have been put in charge of pies for Thanksgiving, which is tomorrow, I have decided that puff pastry is better than pie crust, so that's what we're going to be doing. So we need. I'm doing a half recipe, so we need 1.5 cups of bread flour, we need 2 sticks of butter, we need 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and we need 1 cup of cold water as needed. Yes. So, let's get started. Okay, so in our bowl, we want to add 1 1/2 cups of bread flour. Alright, 1 1/2 cups. And then we want to take 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so we have our 1.5 cups of bread flour and our 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So, let us do a little whisk. We're gonna mix these together right quick. Okay, and then we're going to add our cup of water. We're gonna add a little bit of time, and then we're going to mix this up until the dough will pull from the sides of the bowl and will form into a ball. So that's what we're gonna do. Yeah. It's gonna get messy, y'all. And you might not use the full cup of water, that's okay. You might need more, that's also okay. You just want a good dough ball. Okay, so here's where we're at right now. And we got a ball, but it's quite sticky. It's a little bit too wet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take just a little bit of flour. We're gonna try and dry it up a little bit. Okay, so here's where we're at. It's just a little bit sticky, but also wanted to show particularly that I did not use that full cup of water. So, we're going to set that off to the side. Going to pull this up here. We're going to lightly flour our surface. So we want it to be not too crazy, but we do also need the flour to be absorbed into the pastry, just so it's not quite. There we go. That's much better. Much better. Much better. Much better. Alright, and I can actually scooch that off until a little bit later, because right now we want to wrap this in some, saran wrap, and then we're going to let it sit for a little bit. So I'm going to scrape this off my hand, roll it in, and then saran wrap it and let it sit. 10 minutes. 10 minutes it needs to sit. Okay, so we've got our dough resting over there. We've got flour for when we roll it out later. We've got our 2 sticks of butter right here on top of some saran wrap. So what we are going to do is adjust this slightly and then zoom in. We're going to take a 3rd piece of saran wrap, lay it over the top, just for like ease of stuff. And we're going to take a rolling pin, I've got a French one here, and we are going to roll this out. Okay, Smokey. Now, I left these sitting overnight in the freezer so they would be super cold. If you have room temperature butter, it'll be much easier. So we're going to roll this out, and I'll come back once it's more than what this is. So we're not much further than where we were, but I saran wrapped my my rolling pin, which might make things a little bit easier because that other one, you see that little hole right there? That's where a hole had developed in the saran wrap. So wrap your rolling pin. Alright, so once your butter gets to be about that big, yeah, about that big, go ahead and wrap it up all the way with saran wrap and throw it in the fridge for about 10 minutes, 30 minutes, so it cools down. I'm going to throw mine in the freezer for 10. Yeah, fridge for 30, freezer for 10. Okay, so now we are going to take our dough. Flour our surface. There we go. Flour the rolling pin because that makes life so much easier. And we're going to roll it out to as close to a square, or excuse me, a rectangle. Rectangles are squares. As close to a rectangle as we possibly can. And we want it to be a bit thick. No, pretty thin. We want it to be thin. That's what we want to. So, I'll roll this out. And I'll cut back when it's ready. Okay. That's pretty. Kind of rectangular. That's kind of rectangular. Put it that way. Kind of rectangular. So then we're going to take the butter from the freezer, and there it goes, and we're going to place it right on top. Alright, so the trick with puff pastry is you want your butter, and once everything's put together, you want everything to be and stay as cold as possible. So, there we go. Okay, alright, so you want things to stay as cold as possible. So this had been sitting in the freezer, so it's nice and cold. So then now what we want to do is make sure we can raise our pastry from the counter. We want to fold like this. We want to fold like this. Alright, and we want to take it and roll it flat and spread the butter around inside the pastry, but we do not want the butter to escape the pastry. Does that make sense? So we're going to take this and roll it flat to around about it's the same size that we had it to begin with. And as we roll it, it should stay rectangular a bit more easily. Should. Should in actual reality are not always the same. Okay. Alright, and it'll be heavier, definitely, because of the butter. Spread this down a little bit further this way. Spread it out a little bit further this way. Scooch that down. So there we go. Alright. And then, once we reach this point, we're going to take the pastry and we're going to fold it to the center. Fold it to the center again. Yeah. Letter fold it. So we want to fold it up to here. And then we want this to fold it over like this. Alright? And then we're going to repeat. And honestly, the hardest part is keeping the butter inside the pastry. So you haven't seen it yet, but you will, I'm sure, before the end of the video, of the butter poking out. It does happen. It's okay. Do your best to keep it. So we're here, and we're just gonna roll it out again. Letter fold it again. Wrap it in saran wrap, and then sit in the fridge for 30 minutes because it needs to stay cold. I've read different things saying that if you put it in the freezer as opposed to the fridge, it will cut down the time. But I've also heard if you put it, or I've also read if you put it into the freezer instead of the fridge, yes, it cuts down the time, but it also affects the pastry, the end result of the pastry. I don't know if that's true. So we'll wait till a future puff pastry making to experiment. And this is only the second time I've made it. Alright, so let's roll that out, letter fold it, and then throw it in the fridge. Okay, so we're at this point. Letter fold, saran wrap, fridge. 30 minutes. Alright, so after that first 30 minutes, well, wash, rinse, repeat. Roll out, fold, 30 minutes. Honestly, that's really all it is. But if you do notice, there's the color difference between there and there. So you got the butter here, and you got non-butter here. So eventually it will be solid, that light color. So it'd be butter throughout the entire thing. So let's get rolling. Okay, so if you look right there, I've had my first bubble pop. You see a bubble, you see it along there. Along there. Got little bubbles, little air pockets of more or less butter. So, yes. So, now we're here. Letter fold. Letter fold. There we go. Roll it. Okay, so after this second, third 30-minute portion of chilling, we're going to do our final thing. We're going to do this one last time, and then chill it for the final 30 minutes, and then it'll be ready to use. And that's really it. It's just, it's a pain because it takes forever, honestly. But it comes out so much better than pie crust. And so much better in your recipes. So like those apple dumplings, I could have used pie crust. But I used puff pastry. And I'm glad I did, because it was good. So, I've decided no longer shall I purchase pie crust. I will always have puff pastry for my crust requirements. So then it's just a matter of making it and keeping it on hand. So, Yes, starting to warm up now. Okay. Final time. Alright, and that's it. So now, fold, fold, and refrigerate. That'll last 30 minutes before using. That's, honestly, that's it. Simple, time consuming, and a pain. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Yeah. So, you can find the coconut cream pie episode. I'll put a link in the description. But, yeah, that's what we gonna do. So, thanks for watching.